evening, everyone. My name is Greg Hutt. I'm from the U.S. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. That used to just put fear in everyone. They're like, oh no, they're going to start a war for our oil or something. That's normally how it works. I'm from the U.S. I'm very happy to be here, guys. Bulgaria is fantastic, right? Like it's one of those places that, honestly, like if you told me a year ago I'd be living in Bulgaria, I would have been like, get the fuck out of here. Like that's ridiculous. So we kind of stumbled upon here, and I think a lot of people do, and it's one of those things where it's kind of bad because you want to tell everyone, but then you don't want to tell everyone because you're like, then they're going to show up and ruin it. Like it's if you don't know, just see the rest of Europe. That's my wife is from Barcelona, and it's a little bit more secret would probably be better. It's overrun at all times with people, but no, it's fun. I'm glad to be back out living in the world. I'm a traveler from an early age. My dad was in the military, so we moved like every 2 or 3 years, like around the U.S. He was close to Iraq. He was in a staging area for Iraq, not in Iraq, luckily. But it's funny. It's like I had to think about it, and like for immigration forms, they'll say like, "Where were you born?" Like I had to think about it because the problem was I wasn't actually born in like a city. I was born on an Air Force base that no longer exists because we no longer need to drop nuclear weapons on the Soviet Union. So it literally doesn't exist for that reason anymore. Starting out dark. I'm trying this is my European opening. It's going to get crazier from here. I grew up moving all the time. And it's funny, if you grew up moving, you handle it differently depending on who you are. My brothers and sisters, I have 2 brothers and 1 sister. They will not leave the U.S. They will not move from where they are. They're tired of moving, and I got the opposite. It's just hard to stay anywhere, right? So I'm a traveler. I mean, that's what I am, I guess. It's one step up from vagabond, one step up from vagrant. It's just the amount of money you have while you're doing it puts you in each class. And I've been like this since college. I went to college and then got done, and I was like, what am I going to do? And I went, well, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I want to go out, right? So I spent the next 10 years in East Asia, which is very funny when you're this tall. It's hard to integrate, It's hard to fit in with the crowd. The good part is you always see how long the line is, that's very good. The bad part is sometimes you step on people. Deaths, injuries, it happens. It's part of traveling, guys. I lived a lot of places. I lived in Japan for 2 years. I lived in China for about 5. I lived in Mongolia for a year because I was just like, let's get as cold as possible. And that's what Mongolia is for. I thought it was funny earlier, they were talking about the coldest winter 2 years ago. It was minus 20 every day. And I'm like, that's the summer in Mongolia, guys. That's beautiful. In Mongolia, minus 20 is basically the average winter day. It's a pretty nice day, and a lot of times it gets down to minus 40. I don't know if you guys know this. I'm American, so Celsius is very hard for me because it's too easy somehow. My brain just doesn't work. It's this makes too much sense. It's so simple. But I discovered something. Mongolia helped me discover minus 40 is where Celsius and Fahrenheit meet. Yeah, so it's cool because it's fucking cold everywhere. You gotta, unless there's one place that goes by Kelvin, and then I don't even know. That'll throw you off. All right, not a big science crowd. We'll move away from that. I'll move away. When I lived in Asia, I was teaching English for the first couple of years. So any English teachers in the room? All right. Oh, okay. We got one person. Any English students in the room have studied English? All right, okay, all right. So it's me and the bartender against the world. That's how the battle lines will be drawn. It's fun doing English teaching for a long time. It's weird because everyone's like, oh, you should teach English. And I'm like, why? And they're like, because you speak English. And I'm like, oh, great. And it's like you're qualified for it and also totally unqualified for it. You know, it's kind of, they're like, you look the part. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Like, what exactly does that mean? I don't really want to think about what that means, actually. Like, yeah, weird. But anyways, yeah, so teaching English for a long time. Then I got a job at a private Chinese high school teaching history, which also meant I had to teach like half English because the life of a teacher is suffering. That's what it is. And so then I started doing comedy in Beijing, of all places, because that's where you start English comedy, is in Beijing, China. You know, like, because it's known for its free speech, you know, like that's the big thing. Like, it's funny, in China, like, literally, they're like, okay, guys, let's have a great show, and just remember, don't mention Tiananmen, Tibet, yeah, like, you know, let's just keep it easy, and it's like, all right, well, we're starting, so, but it's fun, because it's like, I started out, like, doing comedy internationally, and it's fun to be back doing comedy internationally. Like, the best part about it is if the jokes don't work, it's just like, they didn't understand the English. It's okay. It's not me, it's them. Like, it's perfect. It's just going after them. Like, but it's fun. I love doing comedy. It's been a lot of fun. I started in Asia, went back to the US for a couple of years, and then I left the U.S. for very normal reasons, which is the healthcare is expensive and terrible. Right? Any Americans in the room? Only me. There's probably better healthcare. Probably. Actually, I know for a fact better healthcare. That's like, literally, I went last year, I had to get dental work done, and I'm like, I am not even talking to a dentist here. Like, that cost $50 just to talk to someone. Like, yeah. We went on vacation, and I did it in Mexico because it was awesome, and there was queso, cheese, you know, so lots of melted cheese. It's wonderful. Mexico is beautiful. They just took cheese, and they're like, you know, the worst part of cheese is chewing it. You know, you got to make it liquid. Then you can just drink it down. It's the best part. But it's fun, though. So, you know, I've been doing comedy for a while, and then healthcare was kind of terrible in the U.S., and if you're pursuing any sort of art form, you're paid a lot in exposure, which does, like, sadly enough, like, landlords don't accept exposure as money equivalent. So a lot of your art does not get paid for, right? So everything else that you do is kind of to balance that, right? To have enough money to live and whatnot. And we're like, well, let's get out of here. Let's go to Europe, right? My wife's from Barcelona, so it's easier to come back into the EU and do all this. And our original idea, and this shows you where my brain was at. It was fried by the American healthcare system. Because we're like, let's save money and move to Paris. Yeah, that's a terrible idea. Like, that was... And the more we thought about it, we're like, this is a terrible idea. Like, we started looking for, like how much it would cost to, like, rent an apartment in the center of Paris. And it involved, like, signing over, like, your children's future. Like, it was crazy. And we're just like, oh, I don't know. We need to rethink this. And so we're like, all right, well, let's look around Europe and see where we like. And, like, where to start. You know, where to start when you kind of want to go everywhere is you just look online for the cheapest air tickets, right? Like, that's the best way to do it, honestly. And so we ended up in Napoli, in Italy, for like a week, which was all right. But I was like, there's no comedy. There's no English comedy in Napoli. Great pizza, not a lot of English comedy. And so we looked for our next ticket, and it was to Thessaloniki in Greece. And so we're like, all right, like, this is pretty cool. But again, I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know. And it's a little expensive, and because we hadn't like found a place to live yet, I wasn't registered as like a Schengen visitor or whatever, right? So the most of Western Europe, I only have 90 days total. So we're like, well, let's leave for a little bit so we can think about what we want to do. And we're like, where's the quickest way to do that? And it was a bus to Macedonia, right? So we just hopped the bus to Macedonia, as you do, right? Spent like a month there. It was great, honestly. I'd never had kebab before, and I went crazy, honestly. The wine, what's that? Yeah. Well, I found that, I don't know, I found that I don't know what a meatball is anymore. I used to think they're round, they're not. I didn't know. There were things I thought I knew, guys. And then I came to the Balkans and everything went to hell. And well, the problem is we went to Macedonia first, then we went to Montenegro, then to Albania, then to Kosovo, and then here. And so you have a lot of food that is similar, but with totally different names. And if you ask anyone, like, is this like this? They're like, no. Like, yeah, not at all, like. I'm like, oh, Lutnica, it's kind of like Ivar. And it's like, it is not like Ivar. I'm like, it is definitely like Ivar. Like, that's bullshit. Like, they're like, do you like Serene cheese? And I'm like, yeah. Like, when I grew up, I always liked feta cheese. It's nothing like feta cheese. I'm like, it's exactly like feta cheese. Like, it's different. I know there's different bacteria or whatever. I don't. Please, Bulgarians, do not attack me after the show. It's going to be another, like, cheese-related death. Like, it's going to find a hunk of kashkaval just jammed down my throat, like, welcome to Bulgaria, motherfucker. Like, I don't know. But it's funny, and so we traveled around a lot, and then we ended up here in Bulgaria, and when we got here from the very beginning, like, we just loved it. You know what I mean? I don't know exactly what it was, and I was trying to think about what I liked the most, and literally, it was how many basement bars there are. I know that seems like a weird thing, but it's like, I love drinking in basements. Like, if it's not a fire hazard, I don't want to drink there. Like, that's kind of the idea. It's very weird, but it's like, when I got here, I went to I think it's like Gaba is one of them. There's this place, Hambara, which, if you've been to Hambara, like, I thought, like, someone was going to get sacrificed at midnight. Like, I was like, this place is ridiculous, like, I don't know. It's just, I was like, this is kind of cool, right? And one thing I like in cities is, I like to see different kinds of cities, but one thing, I like a mix of seasons. And one thing we kind of saw was a pretty good mix of seasons. Like, people are like, oh, the weather here is terrible. And I'm like, go to Mongolia. It's way worse. Like, I'm in the U.S., I was born in, like, the very far north. Like, where you need a snowmobile, like, to get around sometimes. And then I grew up for most of my life in Nebraska. Do any of you guys know where Nebraska is? There we go. All right, so that tells you everything you need to know about Nebraska, right? Like, it's funny, every time I say Nebraska, it's funny because it's like two reactions. Either one, that one, right? Or the second one, people go like, oh, cool. And I'm like, not Alaska. And they're like, oh, okay, all right. Like, I like it. There's no polar bears. It's cold. That's about it. Like, Nebraska is, in the U.S., is famous for cows. And then we're famous for corn. Two great things to be famous for, guys. Like, right? It's corn, cows, and we also have American football. Because if all you have to eat is corn and cows, you get pretty big. Like, you're good at hitting people. So it's funny, like, people are like, oh, the weather's terrible here. And, like, Nebraska, it's completely flat. There are no mountains. Like, we have skiing, and it's just kind of like a slightly sharp hill. Like, it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever... And they charge money for it, which is even worse, right? Like, I'm so excited to go skiing here. I'm just like, real mountains are amazing. Nebraska is completely flat, which means every time wind comes through, nothing stops it, right? And it's like, people think they understand like cold, but until you've been in a cold, windy place, you don't even know what cold is. It's like regular cold, you put on a coat, you feel good, right? It's like wind just cuts through it. It just cuts you down to size. Like, I don't know. Everyone's like, man, this guy's really invested in how terrible wind is. I'm sorry about that. Don't mean to. I like, I came to the last Survival BG thing. Oh yeah, that's probably a bad idea. There we go. I came to the last one and they had everyone doing the slideshows and I'm like, I don't have to do a slideshow, do I? And they're like, no. And I'm like, thank God. I can barely, talk and think and everything at the same time and drink. I spilled all over myself, if you can't tell. Doing what I'm doing. One thing I like about Bulgaria a lot is I like how negative it is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like it, but it's very charming that every Bulgarian I talk to, like, they're like, oh, you live here? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, why? Right? I'm like, man, that's charming as fuck. Like, that's not like like you go to Paris. No, and as someone said, like, why do you live in Paris? Like, if they said, are you living in Paris permanently? And I said, yes, they'd be like, of course you are. It's Paris. It's the U.S. The U.S., our immigration service is just like, everyone who comes wants to stay. Like, that's how immigration works. Like, you come and you never leave, So they assume everyone just comes and never leaves. Here, it's like, they're just like, everyone who comes leaves us eventually. Like, it's like, don't break my heart again. Like, I'm not going to become attached to you because you're going to be gone in no time. Like, it's very interesting to be somewhere where people have such a negative view of themselves. And I don't think I've met a foreigner here yet who doesn't like really, really like it. But you say it and they're just like, you're a liar. It's like, I see what you're trying to push me away, but it's, get back in here. Let's get a hug, right? Like, it's just very different. It's a very weird kind of way to look at things. But it's very European. It's extremely European. I think, like, in general, I don't know if you guys ever watch American movies. Like, I think it's like a national law in the U.S. that they have to, like, end happy, right? And I think it's like an EU directive that it has to end with, like, someone getting cancer or something. Like, otherwise, otherwise it's just not a European film. So it kind of slots in really well in that way. Like, I like it. I liked, he was talking earlier about the shaking heads thing. That's a very common thing, very easy joke, but it really is funny when you don't grow up with that as a normal part of your life, how it throws you off at like the weirdest times. Like I like to drink, I like to have some beers, right? But every time I go to the bar here, absolutely. Every time I go to the bar here and I order a drink and the guy goes like this at me, I just feel like he's judging me, like. He's like, another beer? Really think you need that? Like, it's just, it feels tough, like, and it's weird because then I'll try and do it, but they're like, we know you're not from here, so that's actually no. And then they'll switch and they'll start nodding for yes, and I'm like, fucking stop that. Like, I'm never gonna get it if you keep changing, like, most of my interactions with people end up with both of us just going like this, and we don't know if it's yes or no or what. Like, it's madness, guys. It's madness, All right, I gotta go here quick, but I wanted to talk about one thing that's very near and dear to my heart, which is the Immigration Bureau. All right, what's it? Migracja. What's it? Direccja. Migracja, right? Okay, it's like you guys don't need haunted houses. Just send kids through there, like, right? Just give them like a fake application. It'll scare the shit out of them. So how many people here have gone through the directia migrazia? How many? Okay, all right. So other survivors, I see your scars, I salute you, right? One thing I like that's very fun there is everyone's like, oh, bureaucracy is terrible here. Like it's great everywhere else. It's like, I've gone through a lot of countries, like immigration systems. They're all terrible. Here it's just more like, it's at the moment terrible, right? Because it's, what I kind of enjoy is that for immigration, they're just like, all right, we have a city full of people under like 40. Pretty much everyone speaks English like really well. Like every nonstop I go to, they speak better English than I do. Like, I don't know what happened. It's crazy. But they're like, all right, we have this pool of talent to choose from. But what we really need is someone who was definitely born in the 19th century who aggressively hates anyone who doesn't speak Bulgarian. That's what we're going to go with. Actually, I mean, they are pretty nice, but it is kind of funny. It's just like you interact with foreigners all day. And it's like, don't get me wrong. My Bulgarian is terrible, and I feel bad about that. And I will still feel bad about that in 6 months when I still basically only pronounce beer labels well, right? But it's just funny. It's like with immigration, you always figure you pick up a couple of words every now and then. But what's good, though, is it forced me to learn a lot. Like kopie, right? Right? I didn't know that, but I know I'm saying, I thought that was right. Okay, kopie? I didn't do the O right. That's the problem, right? Kopie, because we didn't realize. I was like, well, we brought all the stuff. And then she's like, no, you need a copy of the stuff. I'm like, but you're seeing the stuff. And she's like, no, copy, copy, right? And you're like, God damn it. So you leave, and then you go and you get it copied, right? And then you bring it back, and you wait in line again. And then it's like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then you get up there, and then she's like, Notarius. You could have told me that with the copy thing, like we could have done this all at the same time. I like the notary thing, but I don't understand it. Are notaries the same here as they are in the rest of the world? Is it like someone who's like court sworn? Like you say something and then they're like, yes, they said that to me, right? They're a recorder of what you say, right? Because it doesn't feel like that here. Like here, it feels like they're the diviners of what is true and what is false, right? Even though from all I can tell, I think it's just passed down, right? Like the jobs, like usually you're like a notary because like it's like a family business. Which is kind of funny. I don't know, maybe in Bulgaria there's just like certain family lines. It's like they're very good at sussing out bullshit. Like they're very good at it. They're the notaries, like. But I love the idea where like we had our marriage certificate. Me and my wife had our marriage certificate, and then we got it translated, right? And we're like, okay, we got this translated, proof of our marriage. We go to immigration and show them that, and they're like, I don't know. We need a statement from your wife as the EU citizen saying she will support you with finances and she will give you a place to live. I'm like, okay, this is in writing? Like, I don't have to work anymore. This is awesome. Like, it is sweet, right? But what I loved about the whole thing was it was like we had to go do that and she had to swear that because it's just like marriage certificate, not good enough. Like, you need to prove your love to the notary. Like that's how we're going to do it. We're going to get down to it. It's the good thing. Okay, let me see. No, I think that's about it, guys. Okay, I got one more small thing. This is a short joke, not about short people, just short in time. I love the food here. The food is amazing. It's probably my favorite thing about Bulgaria, is it's a crossroads of so many different like food cultures. that it's like you get kind of a little bit of everything, right? And it's, you can't walk more than like 15 meters without running into like a scada, like like some barbecue, someone throwing meat at you from somewhere. It's kind of great. I don't understand some things. I've had probably 5 different conversations with people where they tried to explain the difference between banitsa, pita, and burek to me. But so far, I have no idea. I'm just like, they all taste amazing. And when I get them, they're gone in less than 10 seconds. That's about it. But it's funny, like one thing I don't do here, it's like Benitza's kind of taught me an important lesson about Bulgaria, which is I don't fight Bulgarians for a very specific reason. Like, have you ever seen how much oil comes out of a Benitza? That's a group of people that aren't afraid to die, right? I'm going to lose that fight. Like, it's funny. Actually, since I've only been here 3 months, guys, I've been here an incredibly small amount of time. It's kind of funny to do this now. I should do this like in a year. And it's like I'm just like, this is great, or I'm broken down by the system, one or the two. But it's funny, I haven't been here that long, but I got a great scar already. I don't know if you can see on my eye over here. It goes from about here to here. It was not caused by a person. It was caused by a towel rack. I I don't know what happened. I passed out some low blood sugar thing in the bathroom, hit my head. We're in an Airbnb down, where is it? It's like down near NDK, kind of where like Zarasan kind of comes down by there. There's a bunch of lines and stuff. And I passed out and hit my head. And this was like our first month in. And I'm just like, I have no idea what we're going to do. I'm sitting there holding my head. I'm just bleeding everywhere. We called the Airbnb lady and we're like, what are we doing? She's like, I don't call the emergency number. We're like, what's the emergency number? Like, I don't know this. And we're afraid. We're like, we don't know. Like, are they going to speak English or whatever, And so we called it and, do you speak English? And they get someone on who speaks English. And the ambulance came and he didn't speak English, but he knew how to. He's like, blood is bad. Let's cover that. I'm like, this guy knows what he's doing. Like, yeah, there we go. And so within my first month, I'd already been to a pillar of the Sofia nightlife scene, Pirogov, right? It was awesome. It was just like, it's like an essential part. Any nightclubbing experience needs to end with a trip to Pirogov because it was me and like those guys, right? We're the only people there. They bring us in and I'm really, like my wife is so worried. She's just like, you're bleeding so much, oh, whatever. I'm American, so I'm just like, how much is this going to cost? Like, I can't afford to die here. Like, I don't have insurance yet. Like, this is a huge problem, and so we get there with the doctor and I'm there and I'm like, Angliski, and he's like, yes. Yeah, like I got him at the end of a long night, and it's just like, he's like, he's like, give me a gunshot victim, give me an overdose, don't give me a fucking English speaker, not right now, and they took me in, got x-rays, sewed up, this, and then he's like, okay, wait here, and then come see me in 5 minutes. I go back to the office. He's gone, end of shift. And then there's like a new guy, and he's like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, what the fuck happened? Like, you fixed everything. Like, you used to hate me, and now you're a different person who's smiling. Like, it's amazing. And then we leave, and I was like, well, I got to pay. And they're like, no, it's the emergency thing. And I'm like, this is the best place ever. Like, it's Bulgaria, guys. I love it. I've been Greg Hutt. Thank you very much.